Ty, you talk.
Hello, hello.
There it is. All right, beautiful.
Yay!
The more Wisconsinites I've talked to, the more I realize that Miller Lite is more the cheap beer the farther east you go.
Hello.
There's a reason why the Brewers played at Miller Park.
You know what? I gathered that, but I didn't want to say anything.
Tastes like hot dogs.
Hello. My
Hello.
name is Cameron
Yep.
Lawrence.
Too close. Hello.
I am.
Oh, yeah. You're good. Am I good? I'm good.
Alrighty.
Give us your clap. Hello and welcome to our new episode of the Fantasy Football Fellas. We are so excited to have you here on this Friday morning, afternoon, evening, whenever you're listening. Lucas is already dying, so you know it's good.
I'm CPR certified. Do you need help?
I am too. There we go.
Hey.
Yeah,
let's go.
Lucas can save himself. All right. So we have another Friday. Lucas gave us his take on Tuesdays. Tyler, give us your take on Fridays.
It's the end of the work week. You're going into the weekend, hang out with friends, hang out with family, maybe grill out. I mean, it's summertime, baby. Go out and grill out.
There you go. Minnesota, we only got 3 months to grill out, so we got to take advantage of it. So today we're going to be jumping right on into the Bucs and the Falcons, the last two teams in the NFC South. The two teams that we're for sure excited to talk about, just because the fantasy players on that team could be championship winners this year for you. Mm-hmm. And so, but before we get into that, we're not going to forget today. We're going to give the hot take Ty segment in the beginning. So Ty, take it away.
There's been a lot of dialogue, a lot of conversation about who's going to be running back one for the Buccaneers. Last year, a lot of people thought it was going to be Leonard Fournette because Fournette, was cut by Jacksonville, and everyone perceived him to be the better back compared to Ronald Jones. Then Bruce Arians shocked us all by saying that, no, Ronald Jones is still our guy. He's still our running back one. And everyone's like, wait, why? Then Ronald Jones gets hurt, and then Fournette takes over in the playoffs, and you go into the offseason thinking, yeah, this is Fournette's backfield. I do not think that. And I will say that Ronald Jones will still be the running back one for the Buccaneers. Doesn't mean that either of them are irrelevant. I need to say that. They will both have fantasy production, but I just think in terms of depth charts, you will see Ronald Jones' name as the running back one.
There you go.
Not so much a fantasy hot take, because there's really not much I could do for a hot take. I mean, I could say that Antonio Brown will finish with more touchdowns than Chris Godwin and Mike Evans combined.
Oh, my goodness.
That's scorching hot, and I don't want to burn you guys. So,
Do you actually believe that?
absolutely not.
Okay.
That was a hypothetical for sure.
That
for
makes
sure.
sense. That makes sense.
Wait
that makes
till we
sense.
talk about the Bucs wide receivers, and y'all might need to go get your bathing suits on. It's going to be hot out here then, man. Oh, jeez.
Might need some aloe vera.
Get your sunscreen on.
Alrighty, so we're going to start with the Falcons, who will be fighting for fourth place in this division. They'll be rumbling and tumbling all the way down.
Honorable.
Matt Ryan is the leader. Quick question for you, Ty. Do the wheels fall off this year for Matt Ryan?
Yes and no. I think yes, because I think he'll have some sort of coverage with a new coach and a new offense. Mm-hmm. That if he does take a step back, you will want to see another year where he steps back again to confirm it. For sure. I don't think you can make that determination off of just this year. So that's why I say yes and no.
That makes sense. Sorry.
He's distracted.
He's distracted. That was totally my bad, because I was like, I don't know why I could not think of who was next to talk about. I thought I was missing someone, but it's Mike Davis, and so I was looking through my notes to see if it was, but it is Mike Davis.
Who else is on the
I don't know. That's why I was thinking, running backs, and I had You know who I was thinking? It was Todd Gurley.
Gurley.
We were just talking about him, and so for some reason, 10 out of 10 times I would never think that, but for some reason it was in my head that Todd Gurley should have been on my list, and he wasn't there. Let's do a quick over-under with you, Lucas. Matt Ryan had 4,500 yards, 26 touchdowns, and 11 interceptions last year. Is he over or under 4,500 yards this year?
That's a tough one. I'm going to say under.
Under.
It's going to be like 43.
All right. Over-under 26 touchdowns.
I think I'm still going to say under on that.
Under.
24.
All right. And then 11 interceptions.
Yeah. I don't know if that one really matters. I'm probably going to say over on that, too. I think he's going to try and push the ball downfield more this year.
All right. Makes sense. So next we move on to one of their newer acquisitions, Mike Davis, who I didn't realize was 28 years old.
He's old.
Yeah.
Very
Been
surprising
around.
to me. He has been around a while.
He's the new Raheem Mostert.
There you go. Who is also 28 years old, in case you were wondering.
It's a good comp.
Mike Davis last year in 12 starts had 1,000 yards from scrimmage, 8 touchdowns, and 60 receptions.
Had a good year.
Fellas, what are your takes on Mike Davis for this year?
I was looking through like the 2020 fantasy numbers for running backs, and the fact that Mike Davis finished as running back 12, like he only averaged like 13 points a game. It was not like a substantial great season for Mike Davis by any means. I mean, it was a brutal season for every other running back, right? Like he only finished 3 spots behind Ezekiel Elliott, which is crazy. But yeah, like you said, Cameron, 642 yards on 165 attempts. Wasn't even 4 yards in rush. He at least had 6 touchdowns, 60 receptions, 2 receiving touchdowns. So, I mean, that's outliers because he had a full-time gig actually in Carolina. But what those numbers showed me is that he's a well-rounded running back, which I think is so important for what this Atlanta offense needs.
Yeah.
They don't just need a ground-and-pound running back. They need a guy who can get it done out of the backfield. And it's not like Atlanta's resume with running backs is like pure garbage. They had Devonta Freeman, who was the out-of-nowhere running back 1. Goodness, how many seasons ago was that? It was a long time ago.
3 or 4 at least.
No, at least. I was still in high school, so that would be 4 or 5.
4 or 5, yeah.
Wow.
So I know.
That was so long ago.
I know. So I had Devonta Freeman, who they produced as running back 1. Todd Gurley was running back 6 weeks 1 through 9 last season, so that's nothing to slouch at either.
Trust me, I was told that multiple times in trade talks. We're going to reference our friend Jackson again, because he tried to give me Todd Gurley every week.
I mean, wheels fell off after the bye.
Exactly.
But I mean, still, the Falcons were utilizing Todd Gurley to his strengths, and he was scoring touchdowns, which, hey, I'm never going to complain about in fantasy. So, I mean, Atlanta's got a decent track record for producing good running backs. Now that they got Arthur Smith there, I mean, I think he can make it happen for Mike Davis. I don't think they're going to treat him like Derrick Henry at all, but...
You don't see 400 touches this year for Mike Davis?
450 or bust, Mike Davis. No, I mean, he can make it happen for Mike Davis. I mean, it's still going to be a pass-heavy offense. They're still going to be playing from behind. Calvin Ridley is still the guy you want in that offense. But, look, all I'm saying is I took Mike Davis in our mock draft, and I took him as my running back 2 after taking Christian McCaffrey. That's how good I feel about Mike Davis being a top 25 running back this year.
Tyler, where do you got him ranked, Mike Davis, right now?
So currently I have him at running back 21.
All right.
And I'm expecting a Myles Gaskin type season.
Okay.
That's a good comp.
Gaskin last year was pretty much just a pass catcher.
Okay.
I don't think Davis will catch nearly as many passes as Gaskin did, but he'll make up for it in yards and carries and stuff.
All right.
So that early 20s, late teens finish, I think that's Mike Davis' range.
Moves up mainly because of injury. He's kind of a guy. You know, he's gonna be what you would expect for your running back 20-ish, but he's gonna move up just because other guys are gonna get injured. I mean, that happens every year.
I mean, I will envy the person that's able to get Mike Davis as a running back 3 because I mean, you're set then at least for a couple more rounds in your drafts if you have those 3 or if you have him as your 3rd running back.
For sure. All right, let's move on to the guy that I'm for sure most excited about in this Atlanta offense. Maybe I'm not going to say. I almost said the whole AFC South, but I don't know if I actually believe that because Mike Thomas might still take the cake for me. But Calvin Ridley, who has become the undoubted wide receiver 1 after putting up wide receiver 1 type numbers in Atlanta. I don't mean like wide receiver 1 all fantasy. I mean wide receiver 1 on this Atlanta team. Last season with 143 targets, 90 catches, 1,374 yards, and 9 touchdowns.
That's so good.
That is
so good.
Unbelievably good. And that's with Julio playing games here and there.
Right.
Still averaging 17 fantasy points a game in the games that he did play. So it's not like Julio was never on the field, never doing anything. Over his career, he's averaged 0.6 touchdowns a game, which would average out to about 10 touchdowns for 17 games. Let me ask both of you to start. Are you over or under this year on, we'll say, 9.5 touchdowns for Calvin Ridley? That's a tough one for a wide receiver.
That is. Because I think, before I even answer, I think that's the number that's most important for Ridley, is how many touchdowns he scored and the consistency he's had there.
Yes.
It's not like, it's not a, who's another guy, Mike Evans, who we'll get to, right? He's had a few double-digit touchdown seasons, but he's kind of been all over the place with touchdowns. So Ridley's been that consistent 8, 9, 10 range.
It's like the opposite of DJ Moore.
Right.
DJ Moore's been 2.44 and Ridley's been like 10.79.
Yes.
So.
Yes. I like Kyle Pitts in the red zone.
Yep.
I'm going to take under because it's going to be 9.
All right.
I feel like that's what I've been saying for a lot. That's why Vegas makes such good odds. But I'm going to take the under because it's going to be 9.
I'm going to say over.
Okay.
I think he's going to have multiple 2-score games.
Okay.
But I think the majority of those second scores are going to be like garbage time touchdowns. So just because they're going to be playing from behind, he'll get over 9.5 touchdowns.
I am over as well because I'm looking at it as 9 is the under. I think he scores at least a touchdown in every other game.
That's fair.
Number I'm thinking 13.
Ooh,
lucky number 13.
That's kind of where I'm sitting for
that's
Calvin.
That's kind of bold.
It is bold.
That should have been my hot take. Dang it.
Ridley's one of the few guys this year that there's probably 7 of them in the wide receivers that could finish wide receiver 1. That has like a legitimate shot without something crazy happening, you know?
Right.
Where he can finish wide receiver 1 because he will get. He had 143 targets last year. I would be surprised if he's under 130 this year. And I would be more surprised if he was under 143 than if he was over 150. That's kind of where I got. I think he's going to command a ton of targets.
Yeah.
And so he'll probably be about 100 receptions.
Mm-hmm.
Probably put him close to 1,500 yards, and right around that double-digit touchdown mark. So he's got it. He's got the opportunity, and he's proven that he can do it. It kind of comes down to how the rest of that offense is going to work. And the other thing I like about Ridley a lot, and I'll let you guys chip in a second, is I don't trust this defense. Even when they've said the Falcons have got a decent defense, I've never trusted the Falcons defense. So they're going to be playing from behind and shootouts a lot.
Yeah.
So they're going to be throwing the ball a lot. So do you guys have any last little tidbits on Calvin Ridley?
Can we say that it's a big 5 now at the top of the wide receiver board instead of a big 4?
Oh, yeah.
Devontae, Tyreek, Diggs. Who else you thrown in there at 6? Mike Thomas?
Mike Thomas.
That's fair.
I'd say a big 6.
I got to go big 7 because I got Keenan Allen.
Oh, of course.
Of course. I got to go big 7 if we're going to do that. But I agree. I think, to be honest, Calvin Ridley and Michael Thomas are, I think, safer bets than Keenan Allen to have a higher ceiling.
Yes.
I think, for me, all 3 of them are going to be right around the same, and I just personally like Keenan Allen more. That's kind of what it comes out.
I'm not going to argue with any of that. I think we all have them right in that same range, just in different orders.
Yeah, just to play a little devil's advocate, I wonder if Ridley will see an increase in like double coverages and stuff on defenses. And it's not like the infamous like Calvin Johnson goal line pick where he's got like 3 defenders on him at the line of scrimmage. It's going to be a man-to-man corner on him at all times.
With a safety shadow or something like
that. Yep. Because you look at the 3 other teams in the division. New Orleans, he's going to draw Marshawn Lattimore every game, and he'll have a safety over the top there. Against Carolina, Dante Jackson, I think, is their top corner. Or no, they just drafted J.C. Horn. So they have one of those 2 guys on Calvin Ridley. If you put a rookie on him, that's a safety over the top 2. And then you play the Bucs. And the Bucs have a fairly underrated secondary. They don't really have a big name secondary. We all love Antoine Winfield and the whole thing to Tyreek Hill.
Still my cover photo on Twitter. Still my cover photo on Twitter.
That was the greatest moment, right? But there's no big flashy name in that secondary, but they somehow shut down receivers.
Yeah.
So with 6 games against all those opponents across from him, it could be a little bit. I could see really anything happening for Ridley, where he could go like 150 catches, 100 and 1,500 yards or whatever. Could also see a little closer, like 1,200 yards and like 100 receptions, 110 receptions.
Which is his floor of like wide receiver 12.
Right, right. And it's just a matter of how defenses play, but he will still be a top 10 receiver.
Yes. Yeah, 100%. Couldn't agree more. Next is Russell Gage, who I had was one of my sleepers. He's a guy I really liked. Lucas, tell us a little bit about Russell Gage.
Yeah, finished as wide receiver 37 last year. He was working as that wide receiver 2.5 while Julio was out. From week 12 on, without Julio, when Julio was out the rest of the year, Russell Gage was wide receiver 18, which that's it's good. I mean, and so I was going to crunch the numbers and see the games without Julio how Russell Gage did, which Julio also missed weeks 3 and 5. Russell Gage didn't do much then, but I think that end of the season where they really started to find who they are without Julio Jones, Russell Gage is clearly a part of that. You know his ADP right now? Wide receiver 60.
Really?
Wide receiver 60.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I mean, when I've tried to take him, it's like round 13, 14. And I mean, I'm like reaching on him at around 13 and 14.
Right, yeah, you're scrolling down at least 2 times before you get to Russell Gage.
That's crazy.
If his ceiling is a wide receiver 2, and you can draft him in the 13th round of your draft, money. Cash money.
Yeah.
Cash money. If Cameron didn't choose Russell Gage as a sleeper originally in our Instagram at the FF Fellas,
yes, sir. Plugged it.
He was going to be one of my sleeper picks because I love Russell Gage this year. I'm not going to go out and say he's going to be a wide receiver 2. That's just talking nonsense. But clearly it's there. Kyle Pitts is going to have a role who I know we're going to talk about next, but man, seeing how Russell Gage worked in that offense without Julio Jones, once they really started to nail that system down at the end of the year, wide receiver, that's 23 spots lower than where he finished last year. Do we really think there's 23 wide receivers that are going to outperform Russell Gage without Julio Jones? I don't think so. I don't. So, impeccable value for Russell Gage. Great late round flyer.
Can you imagine, real quick, your wide receiver 4 is Henry Ruggs, whose average draft position is, let me verify this.
Oh, he's got to be like 49.
Yeah, like low 40s.
Yeah.
And then your wide receiver 5 and Russell Gage, who's like wide receiver 60 somewhere. Yes. And knowing what roles they will have in this season in the respective offenses, and you're getting them 10, 11, 12, 13, 14.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
Yeah, I mean, that's nuts. Then you got to have great depth the rest of in other positions. That's the other great thing. So we'll move on to Kyle Pitts, probably the most exciting offensive player to talk about. I think we're kind of at a consensus. Tell me if I'm wrong. Maybe the most overdrafted. One of the most overdrafted players. So here's why, at least why I say it. We kind of talked about this a little bit. I kind of talked to you guys.
Right?
Yeah, in redraft. I should say. In Dynasty, I expect great things from Kyle Pitts. Mm-hmm. The best tight end rookie season since 2000 was Evan Ingram in 2017. So this is the best fantasy rookie season. He had 64 catches, 722 yards, and 6 touchdowns. That was good enough for tight end 7 last year, Logan Thomas. This man's being taken in the 5th round right now. That's the scary thing. So even if he has the best tight end rookie season since 2000, he's good enough for maybe tight end 6. I mean, the year that he would have to have is going to be Justin Jefferson type, to crack to start, or not Justin Jefferson type. Sorry, my bad.
Rewind.
That's
rewind.
More to reach.
Is maybe like a CeeDee Lamb more, kind of like that kind of year.
Oh, sure.
But historically, rookie tight ends have struggled.
Yeah.
And so I don't blame you if you want to take a shot on Kyle Pitts. For me, I think the round. I mean, he's being taken fifth round right now, maybe sixth.
He's going after Mark Andrews. I think he's closer to that 6-7. Yeah,
6. I still think that's too high. I think I've been seeing him in early 6th, late 5th. That's where at least that's where my thought process was. If you get a mid 7th, then maybe I could see that. If you're feeling solid 3 running backs, 3 wide receivers, that's kind of my thought process behind it. Because in that 6 through 8, there's so many good wide receivers still.
Yeah,
it's hard to pass up on those great wide receivers. So
get Robbie Anderson,
taking a Kyle Pitts who might need a whole nother year, to develop, but like we've talked about. The opportunity is there, and you guys mentioned that about red zone targets. When do you want to just expand on that a little bit more?
I mean, I think that's why I have him at tight end 6 is because he's such a versatile and dynamic tight end. Where, he's defined as a tight end, but is it unreasonable to think he slots into where Julio is supposed to be in that offense? Yeah. And that's not me saying he is going to be Julio Jones, but my point is they're going to treat him not just like a tight end. They're going to treat him like a wide receiver. They're going to look at him as a big body in the red zone. They're going to use him in the run game. I mean, Kyle Pitts is going to be utilized in that offense. He's far too talented. They wouldn't have taken him at 4 if they weren't ready to use him. And they're going to be a pass-happy offense.
Yeah.
He's probably he's a tight end I'm most scared to draft. But he's also the tight end I'm probably most excited for. That isn't named Kelsey, Kittle, or Waller.
Makes sense. Ty, any last thoughts on Kyle Pitts?
Oh yeah. Lucas said it all. I mean, redrafts, don't reach for him because you want to think he can be the superstar tight end. He certainly can. He has the skill set for it. But like you said, historically, rookie tight ends struggle. I mean, Lucas learned this the hard way with T.J. Hawkinson.
Yeah.
So, nothing is guaranteed with rookie tight ends. So just pump the brakes a little. Dynasty, go ahead. I mean, because...
Dynasty, is it too bold to say I think he should go, closer to the Kelsey Kittle-Waller range? Kelsey's 31, and he's, 3rd round, and Pitts is, 5th round.
I could take Pitts I think Pitts in the 5th. But that's just me with tight ends, though. That's how I value tight ends.
I could take Pitts in the 4th. I can see myself doing that. If I'm okay.
There's so much talent in that 4th, though. That's
right.
Keenan Allen's in the 4th in Dynasty, and I know he's 29, but
it's
tough to pass on some of those high volume wide receivers.
It's back end 4th. Yeah. It's not mid or early 4th. It's back end of the 4th.
And that comes to how do you predict he's going to just turn out after this year? I mean, that's what you're drafting. You're drafting for the future at that point. But if you're taking him in the 4th, that means you really think that he's going to be a Kelsey. And that's tough. Ty, last little quick question. Hayden Hurst, does he have any use in fantasy this year as the backup tight end? Lucas says absolutely not.
Don't make him the trendy tight end pick. I hear it all the time. Don't do it. Tyler, give your answer.
I want to think because just giving Matt Ryan just more bigger bodies to throw to, because I mean Calvin Ridley is
smaller frame.
He's a smaller frame. Russell Gage also a smaller frame. So you can give Matt Ryan, Hayden Hurst, and Kyle Pitts as bigger guys to throw the ball to, bigger targets. But no.
If he couldn't get it done as tight end 1 in that offense last year, why do people think he can get it done as tight end 2 in that offense
for sure?
This year?
Yeah,
it doesn't make sense.
Mike Davis will take the targets. Away from
absolutely.
Hurst, so
all right. So we'll move on to the actually I'll ask you about the Falcons this year. Over under, we'll say 6.5 as well.
Under.
You're under.
Yeah, I don't think that defense improved enough. I'm going to take under as well.
Right at 6.5. They're the tying with the Panthers, baby.
I will say real quick.
If I get that, I'm going to be so happy.
There's another rookie running back with the Falcons, Javion Hawkins. He is definitely worth a pick just because you don't know what that backfield is going to look like. So he could.
Are you talking redraft or dynasty?
Dynasties. The redraft, you got to wait until he pops up on waivers. But who knows what that backfield could look like if Arthur Smith wants to incorporate some passing into the backfield, because he never did that with Henry. But who knows? That could have been a Vrabel thing. So he's worth a look, at least in dynasties, just because he can maybe find a role in that offense.
For sure.
Can I clarify something, too, before we move on?
Yes.
I feel like we've been touching on Dynasty a bit more in these previous 2 episodes. I just want to say, I feel like we're doing this because we've had, in my mind, not only like are we doing a Dynasty startup, but we've also had a lot of questions from people that involve Dynasty, too. So hopefully we're doing this to shed some more light on drafts from a Dynasty perspective, too, not just a redraft, because redrafts are the easiest to talk about. Dynasty adds that other little element to it as well. So maybe you're not in a Dynasty, you can feel free to listen or ignore anything we say there. But since we've gotten so many fan questions about Dynasty leagues, we figured we want to mix that into our podcast a little bit more.
For sure.
Oh, yeah.
So we're going to go to the Bucs now. And we're going to actually start with the wide receivers.
Oh, yes.
Ooh.
Yes.
Oh, man.
Yes.
And before we start with the wide receivers, I just want to say, in weeks 10 through 17 last year, the Bucs had 3 top 20 wide receivers on their roster.
The GOAT, Tom Brady!
Weeks 10 through 17. So, Lucas, I'm going to you start with Mike Evans. We'll go to Ty for Chris Godwin, and then back to Lucas for Antonio Brown. So, Lucas, kick us off with Mike Evans.
Before I even start, where do you both have Mike Evans ranked right now?
Oh.
Just before we started. So, before we started this episode, I had him at 13. And just as we started, I moved him back to 16.
Oh, I don't know where I got him.
Cam?
I think you have him at like 18. Correct me if I'm wrong, though.
17.
17. Yeah, I'm not a huge Mike Evans believer, so that's
But you have Godwin at 14.
I do like Godwin. I'm just not a Mike Evans believer.
So, we're talking Mike Evans. I have him at wide receiver 17 as well. And to the ear, that's probably like, what the heck? 17? He's out of your top 15. He was wide receiver 11 last season. I understand that. But I'm here to tell you, I am delivering the news to you good people. There is likely sizable regression coming for Mike Evans this year. Yeah, where's our soundboard? Soundboard!
Tell the people what they need to hear.
Here we go. Mike Evans' 2020 stats. With a little twist in here. I'll kind of narrate through it. Mike Evans, 70 receptions last season. 3rd lowest of his career. 109 targets. The lowest of his career. Just over 1,000 yards. 1,006 yards to be exact. It's the 2nd lowest of his career.
Jeez.
14.4 yards reception. 3rd lowest of his career.
Ooh.
Lastly, 13 touchdowns. The highest of Mike Evans' career. Now, if I took out my little narrative of highest and lowest of careers, you hear those numbers and you'd say, Mike Evans had himself a nice little season and probably worthy of that top 15 finish. Mm-hmm. However, when I look at those numbers, that's a disastrous combo of highs and lows for your career. Because what those numbers tell me is that Mike Evans was 1,000% touchdown dependent last season. The highest touchdowns Mike Evans has ever had in his career is 12, okay? Let's take off one of those touchdowns, and let's say he meets his career average, because he had that one game where, he had like 2 receptions for 2 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Yep.
Was that just this past year?
Yes.
We'll say he goes 1 reception, 1 yard, 1 touchdown. Mike Evans moves to wide receiver 15. He drops 4 spots with 1 touchdown.
Oh. Ooh.
All of a sudden, he's a fringe top 15. Now, other thing, Mike Evans hadn't had double-digit touchdowns since 2016. Had 5 touchdowns in 2017, 8 touchdowns in 2018, 8 touchdowns in 2019. So, we have Chris Godwin returning to health. We have AB in a full season with the Buccaneers. You still have Gronk there. O.J. Howard. People just kind of forgot about O.J. Howard with Gronk coming on the scene last year. He's a nice red zone target. I think Mike Evans sees 10 touchdowns at most this season. And that might sound crazy after he had 13 last year, but I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that Mike Evans finishes with below 10 touchdowns this year. So if he had even 10 touchdowns last season, that would have put him at wide receiver 18, which is about right where I have him. Wide receiver 17. And that's with like Adam Thielen in that range, Deontay Johnson, CeeDee Lamb, and honestly, there's some of those guys I still might prefer more than Mike Evans in
Kenny
that range.
Golladay. Kenny
Galladay's in that range. Kenny Galladay's like going as like wide receiver 24. Here's the other thing: Mike Evans is going as wide receiver 13 right now in drafts. He's being far overdrafted. So, the good people of fantasy football, I bring you the news that Mike Evans. Sorry, he's not cracking the top 15 this year.
Last stat of Mike Evans before we transition to Chris Godwin. 7 games with 3 receptions or less last year.
That's so bad.
Yeah.
For a
You
top,
can't draft him as a borderline wide receiver 1.
That's rough. All right, Ty, give us the good news on Chris Godwin, my wide receiver 14, baby. Woo!
This is good news.
This is redeeming news.
Chris Godwin, you're my favorite.
Look, so, Chris Godwin played in 12 games last year. He's always had a nagging injury with him, at least the last couple of years, as a Godwin owner, fantasy owner. Not going to go down that road.
Fantasy owner.
He's had nagging injuries.
For sure.
So 12 games last year. He averaged 7 targets, 5 catches, and 70 yards. Which, you put that together in a fantasy score, that's 12 points a week. That's pretty solid. You add in a score. He's averaging 18 points a week. Now, he's not going to put up double-digit touchdowns. He's mainly used to get up the field. Evans was really kind of a deep red zone target or a down the field kind of target. So they used Godwin and Gronk in the run game to kind of get up the field. Not even Gronk, really. It was a run game in Godwin. Every once in a while you'll see Evans. That's how they got up the field. So, with Godwin, he's going to get targets, more so than probably Mike Evans will. He's got good enough hands. He'll get catches.
Brady said that the best hands he ever played with.
Yeah.
Bingo. And yes, the touchdowns will be in limited supply, but I think the way between let's name them all: Fournette, Jones, Gronk, Brown, Evans, and Godwin. I don't think there's going to be a clear leads the team in touchdowns guy. Yeah. I think they're all going to be right around a 6, 7 ish, 8-ish range. So that's roughly a little less than half of the games. That puts Godwin straight into high-end wide receiver 2, fringe wide receiver 1 territory. Obviously, I mean, with Brady complimenting Godwin as he did, I don't see. Let me find my words. There's little to no doubt in my mind that Godwin is the preferred target for Brady in that offense.
For sure. All right. My only thing on Chris Godwin is he had 3 games last year under double digits. 2 of them were coming back off the first game back off of injury.
Limited snap counts.
Wasn't it broken fingers or something?
Yeah.
So he's pretty much double digits every game.
Every game.
So great player. 15.9 points per game last year. We'll go to Antonio Brown, who I was surprised to learn averaged 15 points per game last season. 32 years old this year.
I don't care.
Lucas.
I don't care.
Give us the Antonio Brown news. What or a projection that you have for him this season?
I bring you the good news of Antonio. Maybe I shouldn't say that after all the legal issues he's gotten into. But
we don't associate with.
We don't
condone those actions.
Yes. However, this is where things are about to get a little spicy. Things will get pretty heated here. So remember how I said at the beginning of the episode, it's going to get hot here. Now's the time. So, I have Antonio Brown wide receiver 42, and I'm far too low on Antonio Brown. I need to fix my rankings. And I'm going to tell you why.
Convince me, Lucas. Convince me why I'm too low on him.
So, and we'll exclude his 2020 finish in wide receiver 65 in 8 games. That's fine.
I got him at 31.
See, I'm going to move him up there after this. I'm going to. Cameron, you are not crazy. I'm going to.
All right, make sure I'm not crazy.
He had 45 receptions last season. It's only 25 less than Mike Evans, and he played half the games as Mike Evans.
Oh, okay.
That's not good. No. If you're Mike Evans, that's not good. For Antonio Brown, that's 90 receptions. Okay, that's 20 more than Mike Evans would have finished with. He had 4 TDs, so if you stretch out over 16 games, would have seen a touchdown every other game, so about 8 touchdowns. You average those numbers going into a full season. You want to know where Antonio Brown would have finished? 5 spots behind Mike Evans at wide receiver 16. He was averaging 15 points a game, like Cameron said. He is going as wide receiver 46 right now. Now, if I were Tyler, and I got to make a hot take every week, Here's what mine would have been.
Oh, no.
I would have said that AB will be the highest scoring wide receiver for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this season.
Oh, my gosh!
Wow.
That's what I would have said.
Wow.
I don't care that he's 32. Those numbers tell me AB has still got it. He's got the chemistry with Tom Brady. And you can get potentially, the highest scoring wide receiver on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this season in the 9th or 10th round of your fantasy draft.
Hey, you got aloe, bro?
Wow.
I need some.
That's like a grease fire. Bro.
Let's focus on the numbers, people, not the narrative.
Oh, I understand. Like, I understand being pro Antonio Brown.
I'm
Like,
just saying.
Brady literally snatched him up off the street and was like, come live in my house, start working out, and he came and... But...
Antonio Brown's going to have poor cornerback threes on him. They're gonna have Cam Dantzler on him.
Where are you ranking Antonio Brown at then? Like, where do you think he's going to finish?
If we're being realistic, and I'm not like going absurdly hot take here.
Okay,
like,
but on that absurdly hot take, how high would he be? Like,
How high-
would it mean that Godwin and Evans finished low, or are you saying like
I would put Mike Evans at 19. I would put Godwin at like 17, and AB would probably be like somewhere between 14 and 16. So it's seriously realistic that we could have 3 top 20 wide receivers, like you said, in the Tampa Bay offense. That's not out of the realm of possibility. We need to focus on numbers and not this narrative of there's too many mouths to feed in Tampa. And we'll get to Tom Brady.
Yeah.
Tom Brady's got the numbers to prove it.
Yeah, he does. That's the problem.
That I like to think I didn't just kill our credibility, but I am passionate that Antonio Brown still has it, even at 32 years old.
Well,
quarterback threes.
all right. Well, let me give you the...
Dantzler at the slot. It's going to
Go
die.
AB.
Die.
That's 9
He's
targets,
dead.
9 receptions, 125 yards and a tutty.
Stop. He's
right.
already dead.
I'm sorry, that Antonio Brown segment went on way too long, but I feel passionate.
Well, let me give you the Tom Brady stats to show.
Yeah.
Do it.
You take away Tom Brady.
So last year he had... I don't know why I have how many completions he had. Who cares? He had he had 401, which makes feeling better. He could have 3 100 reception receivers, and still have 100 receptions left over.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
That wasn't even the highest of his career.
And he had 4,600 yards, 40 touchdowns, and 12 interceptions. So the thing on the Bruce Arians offense is it takes a year, right? That's what we've all heard. Is it takes a year to get acclimated. Well, for Tom Brady, it took half a year because he's the GOAT.
The GOAT.
From weeks 10 to 17, he averaged 24.36 fantasy points per game and averaged 3 passing touchdowns a game.
Golly.
That's one apiece if you ask me.
He's playing to 45, baby.
He's playing to 45, which means his trainer thinks he's going to be as good as last year, physically. So if he's as good as last year and keeps up weeks 10 to 17, the dude is about to be on pace for 51 touchdowns.
Oh,
Peyton
my.
Yes.
I'm sorry, but like Tom Brady can support it. I don't know if Antonio Brown's gonna do it, but Tom Brady can support it. If anybody can this year, it is Tom Brady of this offense.
Well, and Arians will give him the ball to do it. I mean,
Tyler, how many starters on offense and defense do the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have returning this year? Do you know?
all of them.
All of them. All 22. So there's going to be some continuity. Like this offense is going to go. We hit the Super Bowl, and then we're just going to keep going. You know, like it's not like we hit the Super Bowl and we see regression. Like this is Tom Brady's
Mike
offense.
Evans will see regression.
Just Mike Evans. Just Mike Evans.
I mean, that's just crazy. Wow. So, I mean, he could do it. I mean, they could have 3 top 20 wide receivers. I don't know if I believe it, but I'm feeling better about having Antonio Brown at wide receiver 31. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, I got him.
I will say, I hope I made you feel good about that.
Where do you guys have Tom Brady ranked right now?
Quarterback 8.
Ty, where do you got him?
Quarterback 9. Well, that's
I have him at 9, but I'm going to move him up to 8.
because I have Deshaun Watson at 8, and that needs to change.
I have him at quarterback 6.
That's what I'm talking about.
Because Tom Brady is going to be pushing 5,000 yards this year with 45 touchdowns. I guarantee it. It is going to be Aaron Rodgers of last year numbers. It's going to be ridiculous.
Oh, my goodness.
And you know he always sneaks in 3 rushing touchdowns.
Somehow.
He's Tom Brady. He gets 3 rushing touchdowns. He'll be 44 and getting 3 rushing. I mean, he'll have 4 rushing yards in the season, but he'll get 3 rushing touchdowns.
QB sneaks, baby.
And so, I don't know. That's my Tom Brady. I love him. I just hope he doesn't win another Super Bowl because I want the Vikings to. But
yeah, please.
If it ain't the Vikings, it better be Brady in my book.
Oh no!
And I'm sorry. Cut it.
Now we're gonna get canceled. You thought Antonio Brown was gonna get us canceled. You just wanted Brady to get 8.
No, you can come fight me on Twitter at Lucas Wenzel. You can come right at me there. Take it off the podcast. These fellas have nothing to do with my.
All right, let's just do. I'm gonna ask real quick before I jump into this because I want to make sure that it's okay that I do this, and then we'll kind of talk about these 2 running backs. Are they anything more than a flex option at best?
Who?
I'm drafting that.
Fournette and Jones.
Oh.
I'm drafting them as my running back 3s, and I'm going to have a better flex before that. So I'm drafting a wide receiver at my flex. At best.
All right. Same for you.
Same as me.
All right. So Ronald Jones last year averaged 13.3 points a game, good enough for RB20.
Yep.
Leonard Fournette only had 10 points per game in 3 games last season. He's only averaged over 4 rush yards an attempt once in his career. Ronald Jones, on the other hand, had 5.1 yards per attempt on only 194 rushes last year.
Oh.
I know, Ty, you talked about this, but is there a chance that Ronald Jones completely takes over this backfield?
Absolutely.
There's always a chance.
Do you think it what is your % chance that he completely takes it over and finishes as RB20 or better?
Or better. Oh, boy.
Better.
Because he finished RB20 last year. So if that's what I'm thinking. If he takes over this backfield and is the only guy there that means anything, I would assume he finishes better than he did last year. That would be my guess. So what is the % chance out of 100 that happened?
So both have to be. So
Yes.
it has to be
He
takes over and finishes higher than
Yes.
20. Okay.
What's your % chance?
35.
35?
45.
I'm going 50. I'm saying it's a flip of the coin. I think we have Leonard Fournette, like we were saying before, just so hyped up in our brains. I mean, it's like I fell for it with Sony Michel 2 years ago. You see these guys in the playoffs, and you're like, oh my gosh, they're amazing.
Yep.
But playoff football is different than regular season football.
Well, and I touched on it earlier. Ronald Jones got hurt in the last regular season game of the year.
Mm-hmm.
He had to sit out the game against Washington.
Yeah.
Why would they not give Fournette the ball? And when Fournette did something, like he did against Washington, and with a then questionable Ronald Jones in the second game, in the divisional round of the playoffs, you're not going to risk injuring Ronald Jones when you can have... You're not going to risk injuring a running back when you can have 2 solid running backs going deeper into the playoffs.
Yeah.
And by that point, Fournette was just on a hot streak, so you're not going to take Fournette out to put in a, recovering running back in his place.
Mm-hmm.
Now that they're both going to be back fully healthy, Bruce Arians literally said, Ronald Jones is still our guy. No one believed him at first.
Mm-hmm.
He still played Ronald Jones, and Jones finished as running back 20.
Yeah. Lucas, got anything else said?
I was going to try and make the counterpoint for Fournette and see if he was more involved in the passing game. Fournette had 47 targets. Jones had 42 targets. Not enough of a difference, really. Look, I don't want either of them. I don't want the headache. I
agree.
I think we make this very clear in our podcast. We are anti-running back committee.
Yep.
Anti-running back committee, and that's what this just smells like. So I don't want either, but if you're going to put a gun to my head and make me choose one, I'm going to choose Ronald Jones.
All right. And we'll finish up with the tight ends. We got Rob Gronkowski and O.J. Howard. Gronkowski finished as tight end 9 last year, 9.3 points per game. I'm worried about a tight end committee in the Bucks. Does Gronk finish as a top 12 tight end this year?
No. I think he finishes somewhere between 12 and 16.
All right.
Yeah, no, but I can see him, but I don't think he will. If he does, it's because he's gonna have 8, 9 touchdowns again. He had 7 last year.
Yeah,
and that was his first year back from his little retirement getaway thing. So I think if he finishes top 12, it's more so just because of touchdowns at that point.
All right. That makes sense for sure. All right, well that wraps up our tour through the NFC South. As next week we will continue with the AFC West.
AFC West. The last 2 divisions.
Explosive AFC West. Fellas, anything else? Actually, almost forgot. Over under on the Buccaneers. 12.5 wins.
Over.
12.5?
Yep. So you got
That's
17
games. So.
Yep. So you get 5 losses would be 12 games. So do you think Brady loses five times in the regular season?
No. Over. 13-4.
I'm over as well because I think they're going to go 6-0 and walk through this division.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
they only need another 6.5, 7.5 wins after that.
They have an outside of their division.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess their schedule in total. Their top 5 easiest schedule in the NFL.
Oh, there you go. So Brady losing 5 games on the top 5 easiest schedule is tough to come by.
Which he will have a bad game or 2.
He will.
He's
Always
not
does.
perfect.
Well, he's close. So, Lucas, before we end, can you once again give us these social media handles that me and Tyler refuse to remember?
I don't think we refuse.
I will.
I'm just so good. I'm just so good at it. FF Fellas on Twitter. The FF Fellas on Instagram. Fantasy Football Fellas. Facebook, YouTube, TikTok.
There you go. With that, deuces, and we will see you next week.
Deuces.
Alrighty.
That was a long one.
The people need to hear about the Bucs.
They do. They can't sleep on
The more I did digging on those numbers,